Right, we are live. We were live a minute ago. I don't know how many people caught the unplugged version, but if you did, I hope you enjoyed it. If not, this is the real thing. So today is April the 8th, 2019. And Tom, it's been a while since there was any snow, and it was, I understand it was pretty warm there today, and we're looking at something completely different, it sounds like, right?
That's correct. Portions of southern Minnesota, a good chunk of southern Minnesota, Bill, reached and exceeded 70 degrees today. So a beautiful day, lots of sunshine. It is early now, getting into mid-April, and we usually expect some surprises. And this is going to be no different as we head into Wednesday and especially Thursday. Now, Bill, I think what's key here is that our system is really going to come at us hard on Thursday, okay? But we need to watch out for Wednesday. I'm going to show you this in some of the maps. But we do need to watch out for Wednesday because we could get a precursor to the main event, and that would be Wednesday and probably more Wednesday morning. And I think that would mostly affect areas from the southern Twin Cities metro on south on Wednesday morning. So let's just keep an eye on that over the next 24 to 48 hours. But no doubt, Bill, there's going to be what appears now to be a blockbuster storm. It's going to feature heavy snow. It'll feature an ice storm, especially near and along the I-90 corridor in southern Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And then it'll feature rain and thunderstorms, some of them potentially severe, in Iowa, Illinois, and portions of the Great Lakes area.
Tom, in my naivete, whatever, it strikes me as odd that there would be much of an ice storm at this time of the year. I think of ice as when it's super cold and the ground is really cold, and but I think of this event this time of year at least with the cooling. What do you call that? Cooling when the precipitation gets hard.
Dynamic cooling.
Yeah. So I assume I assume dynamic cooling would change rain to snow, but it seems odd to me that you'd be talking about ice at this time of year. But
well, it's a good point. It is a good point, Bill, because surface temperatures are not going to be that cold. I think the lowest we will get during this storm event will be in the mid to upper 20s. So that's not that cold from a surface standpoint for heavy ice accumulation. And we need to keep in mind, temperatures were in the 60s and 70s today. So the ground, especially the surface, pavement temperatures, they're warmer than they have been in January, February, and even March now. So, do I think we're going to get a quarter of an inch to a half inch of ice? Maybe on the elevated surfaces, but at the ground level and on the heavily traveled roads, probably not. But certainly enough to cause big time travel issues, especially for those areas that receive liquid rather than ice pellets. And again, I think that'll be on the I-90 corridor in southern Minnesota. I don't think the Twin Cities has to worry too much about ice. I think it's going to be mostly a snow event. And I think that might have been one of the questions, Bill, that you were going to ask.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it's going to be a mostly snow event in the Twin Cities. But these types of storm, Bill, we can often get a surprise surge of warm air because the lower levels and at least the dynamics of the storm are so strong that it may pull up just enough warm air to even produce some wintry mix in the Twin Cities. And if that happens, that of course will hold down snow totals.
Yeah. So it sounds like cold air is the key to this whole thing.
It is, and we've had an abundant amount of cold air.
Are you still there, Tom? I do not hear you, Tom.
That's the cold air that's going to be sinking in southern Minnesota.
Tom, we didn't hear you for like about 10 seconds there.
Oh, I was going to say it's been pretty cold up in northern Minnesota for April, for late March and April standards. And that's the same for Lake Superior and areas north of there. That cold air is going to sink south and get entrained into the storm system. And that's why we're expecting travel issues. You can see here, Bill, I've got the travel impact graphic from Novak Weather. And look where the Twin Cities is located. It's right in the middle, right in the axis of highest impact for travel difficulty as we get into especially late Wednesday now, and more importantly, Thursday. Now, again, I do think that Wednesday could surprise some people, especially in the southern 1/3 of Minnesota. Mm-hmm. But the main impact of this storm looks to be late Wednesday night and into Thursday and through Thursday. And this storm system, Bill, likely is going to linger into Friday morning. So it's going to be a long-lasting system. Goes for about 24 to 48 hours rather than a quick moving system. That's going to be another problem. Now, I do want you to focus where I've got this ice shield, Bill. That's Albert Lee, Rochester, on east and northeast to near Eau Claire, and then into central Wisconsin. So that's where, if ice accumulates, it's going to be in that area. And don't be surprised if it's an ice storm in some of those areas, because I do expect a lot of liquid to be falling with temperatures near or just below freezing in those portions of Minnesota and Wisconsin and northern Iowa.
Tom, should I run through a few questions that
Sure.
Okay, let's flip over here. Right, so one of the followers on the blog, not Paul Douglas, says his question is, what will be causing the high winds Thursday, in parentheses 50 miles per hour, and do we have a chance of thunder snow?
Yes, and I will tackle that thunder snow question just a little bit, Bill, as I show some maps. What's going to create the high winds is a rapidly deepening low pressure system in the Central Plains. I don't think this is going to be a bomb like we've talked about before, Bill, but pretty close to it. This storm's going to rapidly intensify, and that's going to create the strong winds.
Okay. Big Daddy has a couple questions for you. When does the snow start? Is it an all snow event? Do you think we have a chance of exceeding 15.7 from last year? These are a lot of questions. And then can we turn the page on winter after this?
Yeah, I don't want to get into the timing yet, Bill. Like I said, we may get surprised on Wednesday, especially in the southern Twin Cities metro and south. The bulk of the activity, the real heavy stuff, the massive winter storm would be Thursday and then lingering into Friday morning. Do I think we're going to exceed 15 inches in the Twin Cities? Well, that would be quite a goal to reach, Bill. So I don't think we would reach 15 at the airport.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a healthy snow. Some areas in southern Minnesota, western Wisconsin, and it could be the Twin Cities, will get over a foot of snow out of this thing.
Wow. And for the Twin Cities, you expect it to be pretty much an all snow event?
I think so. Maybe some rain mixing in on Wednesday. But during the main portion of this event, Bill, I do expect it to be all snow, especially Thursday.
Okay. And then his last question was, can we turn the page on winter after this storm, or does the pattern produce any more snow?
Never any guarantees in April, Bill, but I think we can turn the page.
Okay.
All right, what we're looking at now, Bill, and let's get to that thunder snow question, all right?
Yep.
Here is the NAM computer model guidance for lower level winds, okay? Lower to mid-level winds. This is at 700 millibars, Bill, so this is at about 10 to 15,000 feet in our atmosphere, okay? What I want you to focus on is where the strong winds are at lower to mid-levels in the atmosphere, because strong lower and mid-level winds often fuel thunderstorms, okay? So look at what we have here on Wednesday morning. These are some strong winds over Iowa, and that means that portions of southern Minnesota, I wouldn't be surprised if a flash of lightning or rumble of thunder accompanies the ice and snow that falls there on Wednesday morning. But then watch what happens as the storm cranks up, Bill, on Wednesday evening. Now, this is Wednesday night, and then into Thursday morning. Look at this impressive fetch of strong winds at 700 millibars. We're talking about winds in excess of 70 knots. This is a powerhouse jet streak at mid-levels of our atmosphere. This will fuel what I believe will be some thunder snow over southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin as we go through the day on Thursday. And the snow will likely come at us in waves. But also I want you to focus on how slowly this low pressure center, at least in the mid-levels, how slow it moves. It's located over Omaha on Thursday afternoon. But then look, even as we get into Thursday night, it only moves to near Rochester or La Crosse within that time period. So this storm system is just creeping along, hence the reason why we have the potential for heavy snows and heavy ice accumulations.
But I'm wondering, as the storm sits and doesn't move that much, does it kind of warm up?
It could. Yeah, Bill, that's actually a great point. It could draw in even more warm air than it's expected, hence the reason
I'm here for more than just amusement, Tom. I'm here to ask.
Well, you're learning, Bill. You know, that's why we love you. You learn, and you're all about learning. And even if it may not be your profession, Bill, we all know how much you care. You care. And I appreciate that with you, Bill. I mean, that's why we all love you.
Okay.
Here's the
we can end the video right here, or we can continue. Listen.
End on a high note, George Costanza. Anyway, here's the jet stream, Bill. We always talk about the jet stream. This is at 300 millibars. This is at about 30,000 feet in our atmosphere, where the jet streams put it on cruise control. And I mentioned this before in an earlier video, not with us, Bill, but if you're flying from San Diego to Minneapolis, you're going to be making real good time on that jet aircraft, because look at how the strong winds are coming out of Southern California and the desert Southwest, and then they're turning northeast through the Central Plains, and then continuing into Wisconsin. Now, this would be Thursday evening, okay? And let's just actually go back to Thursday afternoon, right during the height of the storm, and look at where southern Minnesota is located, Bill. Here we are. We are on the nose of that jet streak, of that powerhouse jet streak that's coming up out of Oklahoma and surging north into eastern Iowa and southern Wisconsin. That's the perfect position for lift in our atmosphere, Bill, and the perfect position for the explosion of precipitation. That is what's going to be going on during the day Thursday in southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. And then watch what happens with this jet stream. It just doesn't move much. On late Thursday night and Friday morning, you can still see that we're fairly close to that jet streak, which means we still have the potential for snow over eastern Minnesota and western Wisconsin, even on Friday morning. So from a jet stream standpoint, Bill, this storm system is loaded, and we really are going to need to watch out for heavy snows and heavy precipitation. And now that was a European computer model, Bill. Let's just quickly put on the American model. This is the GFS guidance for the jet stream at 300 millibars or 250 millibars now. And here's Thursday afternoon, Bill, and look at where the GFS model has us located, at the exact same point as where the European models got us. So we've got consensus in the guidance. All guidance shows us in a perfect position from the mid to upper levels from a wind standpoint for a storm system to develop. So that's why confidence is so high. Almost no matter who you talk to, Bill, no matter what weather forecaster you talk to, I think their confidence is very high that heavy precipitation is going to fall over southern and central Minnesota and western Wisconsin. I think the only wild card here is, will any mixture be associated with the snow that falls over southern Minnesota and Wisconsin? And that still remains to be seen. But again, look at how the winds are strong on the GFS computer model, not only at 300 millibars, Bill, but then as we go lower in our atmosphere at 500 millibars, just a powerhouse jet streak coming up out of Texas and Oklahoma and surging north into southern Wisconsin. Hence, an impressive pinwheeling storm will develop right over southern Minnesota and Iowa on Thursday. One last map I wanted to show you, Bill.
Yep.
And this is going to be the precipitation map. And we'll zoom in eventually into the northern portion of the United States, but this is just looking at all of the United States here. And this is from the European computer model, Bill. And let me just quickly point out where Minneapolis, St. Paul is located. Here they are right here. And this is Wednesday afternoon. Look how close this, what we call a mid-level frontogenetic band of snow and ice. Look how close it gets to southern Twin Cities Metro on Thursday morning and afternoon. I wouldn't be surprised if that got bumped north a little bit further to affect portions of the metro. But then we get a little bit of a lull, and then the main action comes up on Thursday afternoon and evening. In fact, look at what happens by about noon on Thursday. The Twin Cities Metro, in fact, much of people who are watching this video, many of these people are going to be experiencing heavy snows at probably 1 inch to 2 inches per hour as we head into Thursday afternoon. And again, some thunder is likely going to be associated with this snow. And then when all is said and done, I'm almost certain that at least a few locations in southern Minnesota and western and northern Wisconsin will get at least a foot of snow out of this. But exactly where remains to be seen. And of course, Bill,
yeah.
Of course, just one last thing, Bill, there will be a sharp gradient. north-south gradient on who gets snow and who doesn't. And my bet is that it's going to set up somewhere in between St. Cloud and Alexandria. You're going to go from very little to quite a bit of snow. And then that'll be also the same here on the southern end of this precipitation. If we draw a line from about, Sioux City, South Dakota, northeast through Rochester, Minnesota, and then continuing east to Green Bay, that's probably going to be the southern gradient for that snow. You start going south of Rochester, probably not as much snow, and then north of Rochester, Minnesota, a lot of snow. So this,
yeah,
this
Tom,
storm has it all.
as you talk about precipitation amounts, do you think this could be the kind of thing where, 12 inches of snow falls, but at any given time, there's never more than 6 inches of snow as a snow depth?
Oh, no doubt, Bill. Although I do think some places are going to have a snow depth of about a foot, if not more, out of this storm. But I think a lot of areas are going to have compaction, and I think that's what you're talking about, Bill. We do have a much warmer ground than we did a month ago. So the likelihood that quite a bit of this snow is going to melt on contact is certainly a viable argument. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if, when all is said and done, that even though a foot of snow or more falls in many locations, it quickly melts down or compacts to about 6 to 8 inches of snow.
It almost seems like that could emphasize the gradient, because where it snows really hard, it's going to accumulate because it's colder and it's coming down hard. Whereas in areas where it doesn't come down as hard, you have less snow, but it's also going to melt more because it's not coming down as quickly.
Correct. So those of you that are going to be on the axis of real heavy snow, no matter how heavily traveled the road surfaces are, it's going to be snowing so heavily that it's going to accumulate even on the freeways. So that's a good point. And I do think that that's going to happen in the Twin Cities Metro, by the way.
Yeah.
But then those that are on the outskirts of the real heavy band, you're probably going to escape without having at least as challenging of travel conditions. By the way, Bill, we've zoomed in again here on the north central United States with the European Future Radar and the ECMWF Future Radar. And one thing I wanted to note to you, Bill, is here's Minneapolis and St. Paul. Let me just draw it on here again. This is Friday morning. The snow is still lingering over eastern Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin on Friday morning. So when you go to bed Thursday night, it's likely that you're not going to be out of the woods yet, because we'll likely still get some accumulating snow overnight Thursday and into Friday morning.
Tom, if you live in Minnesota, you're really never out of the woods.
Well, especially if you're in northern Minnesota.
Well, yeah, but there's two ways you could take it. One is the actual woods, and one is the fact
that's right.
The threat of snow is never that far away.
That's right, Bill. That's right. Hey, I can tell you this, Bill. Yeah, it is weird having this type of snow in April, but you know what? It's been fun. Last year I thought was fun. It's a lot of work for me, as you can imagine. But I know that a lot of people love this stuff. So yeah, it stinks, but it's only going to be around for a few days.
What's kind of amazing is, it really hasn't snowed at all for the last, 3-4 weeks. So it's shut off, and then it's going to shut on big time. There's nothing in between.
Right. You knew it was going to happen, didn't you? It was inevitable. And that's kind of the way I felt, even when we went through this lull.
Yep. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
All right, William. Thanks for checking in.
Yep. Thanks, Tom.
Bye-bye.